Jane Awana is dying because she has AIDS, although she denies that's the cause. In her Nairobi slum, as in much of Africa, acquired immune deficiency syndrome is often misunderstood, feared, and surrounded by many myths.
The neighbours hate me very much because of AIDS, but I don't have AIDS. I started feeling a pain. It was swollen here. Then the skin started to heal. Then the swelling disappeared. It doesn't come out anymore, but now I feel the pain inside.
Jane's only regular human contact is her care worker.
We try and educate the entire family and the neighbors, so as to maybe to love the person and to agree to accommodate the person in the family, and even the neighbors to accommodate and love the client, so that she can be not stigmatized by anybody.
The slums of Africa are the breeding grounds for HIV, the virus that can lead to AIDS. More than 35 million people around the world have AIDS, and about 2/3 of them are African. The death rate in Kenya is more than 500 a day, with around the same number contracting HIV. Slum dwellers are caught in a downward spiral in which poverty is intricately linked to AIDS. Lack of money and education makes people more susceptible, and as sufferers they either cannot work or are denied it, leading to further degradation. Patricia Atiena Omundi has AIDS and doesn't often feel well enough to leave her bed, but she has 12 children to support. Her husband died of AIDS 3 years ago, and the family is now ostracized.
I find it very difficult when I'm sick and no one wants to come near me. They think my children will then go and steal their food. When my neighbours see something missing, they come to my house to check. They think I send my children out to steal because I'm sick with diarrhea and vomiting and headaches. I don't have anything at all because I don't have a husband to help. I don't have proper work. This is all that I can do. And I don't have the strength to do it anymore.
Because of the stigma attached to her illness by neighbours, Patricia finds that the only place she can talk freely and easily about her worries is with a community self-help group counsellor, Wilson Wambua. He's also head of the youth programme for the organisation Kikoshep. As such, he knows all the misconceptions associated with sexually transmitted infections, or STIs.
There's various myths that having sex with a young girl could cure an STI or even cure or cleanse you from the HIV/AIDS virus, and that has come out strongly even in the media. And within this particular setup in Kibera, it's one of the most prevalent problems affecting young people.
Because of the persistent myths, Kikoshep tries to educate people and change their attitudes. But habits and prejudices are hard to break. Young women are particularly vulnerable to unprotected sex, although not always because of pressure from young men.
I want sex. I want sex because I want my friend, but I have alcohol.
You are drunkard.
Whether avoiding AIDS or coping with it, education is vital.
The main message is that, one, they have to understand the situation of HIV/AIDS. It's not the end of them. They still have quite a long time that they can live if they take care of themselves and if they have the right attitude towards life and the right set of mind. And that is what we're trying to build within the clients and the counselors that come during the counseling sessions.
Prostitutes run a huge AIDS risk. An estimated 1 in 3 of Nairobi's commercial sex workers have HIV. But that means most of them do not get it, in spite of having unprotected sex with a variety of partners. That's not down to luck, but to a form of natural immunity possessed by some prostitutes, a fact which was seized upon by AIDS researchers. HIV specifically attacks the immune system, usually weakening the body in the face of potentially fatal illnesses, like pneumonia. But some prostitutes are obviously made of sterner stuff, and investigators wanted to find out exactly what it was. University of Nairobi workers discovered the phenomenon at around the same time that British researchers from Oxford found a similar characteristic among prostitutes in the Gambia. The discovery was a revelation that led to intense, coordinated study, which has been a breakthrough in several ways. It crossed the traditional north-south divide by involving Britain, Kenya and the US-based International AIDS Vaccine Initiative. The researchers focused only on the AIDS strain prevalent in Africa, not that of Europe and the United States. And the agreement was that any successful vaccine produced must be affordable in countries like Kenya. Eventually, a trial vaccine was made, and the Kenyans officially launched tests in March. The first public volunteer was Dr. Pamela Mandela. As someone at low risk of contracting HIV, she is an ideal subject for phase 1 of the trial, ascertaining the vaccine's effect on the immune system.
Comfort of the patient rather than the comfort of the press.
Dr. Pamela, how do you feel?
I feel fine.
Does he hurt? You have to watch that one.
The International AIDS Vaccine Initiative's project manager, Dr. Gilbert Carnathan, hailed the launch of trials as not just brave, but the beginning of the end for a scourge of mankind.
Together, we have shown that we can do what others dared not to try. I believe now more than ever that we will prove we can turn the epidemic's tide, that an HIV vaccine is possible, and we can end AIDS for all time.
No matter how soon that happens, it'll be too late for the children of the Mnyumbani orphanage. All of them have HIV, and many are likely to die here. If they lived in the United States, their lives could be prolonged by drugs, but that costs thousands of dollars a year, and countries like Kenya simply cannot afford the treatment. There are legal measures that can be taken to ease access to cheaper copies of patented drugs. But organisations like Médecins Sans Frontières say the Kenyan government has been slow to introduce the necessary legislation.
It's a challenge to make the procedure more flexible, more easy to use, and then let it happen, that it turns into reality. But why, until now, it really, beside the fact that the procedures are quite difficult to follow, we do not really understand why it never happened before.
The political, legal and economic difficulties associated with current access to drugs makes the Kenyan vaccine trial even more important. But if it proves successful, the authorities will then have to overcome the obstacles to universal treatment.
We also need the infrastructure to be able to deliver health care in the entire country. We should be able also to train our medical personnel to be able to manage and to administer some of the drugs that have been offered in the market.
The rapid spread of AIDS across Africa has offset much of the economic development that might otherwise have been made in the past 2 decades. If this vaccine trial is successful and the procedure is applied to other diseases, it could boost Africans' physical health and consequently their finances. But it all has to be taken one step at a time.
We should know that there's no vaccine as yet. These are just clinical trials. Okay? So right now, we must emphasize the preventive measures that have been put in place. We have to continue to maintain low-risk behavior. We have to try and prevent ourselves from getting HIV. That's the message I give Kenyans.
That message applies to all sufferers, not just those in African shanty towns. The death rate in Kenya indicates that 3 people will have died of AIDS since this report began. Perhaps one of them was Jane.